With me now is Michael Rowe, chairman of the Young Jewish Assembly. Michael, good evening. Thanks for joining the show. How are you feeling tonight? Because we've seen not just this situation in Bondi, this is a litany, this is the latest in a litany of attacks on Jewish people in Australia. As I just mentioned to Liam, you had the Melbourne's synagogue attack, an attack on a kosher grocery store. In Manchester in England, we had the stabbings by a guy called Jihadi. He was literally called Jihadi, like it's some episode of, I don't know, Brass Eye or something. How are you feeling tonight?
Good morning. I mean, we are absolutely shocked and disgraced by what has gone on today. But as you just listed there, Ben, there is constant attacks on the Jewish community, murderous attacks, and unfortunately these attacks are only getting more frequent and more deadly. And we are absolutely now calling for action to take place to stop this ever happening again. I seem to come on GB News and other news outlets. We're writing articles, we're talking to people about so many different attacks taking place. We have the warm words afterwards. We have the politicians putting out the statements. We have the increased police presence, which of course we're very grateful for. And this happens across the world. And then things die down for a short period of time. And then we find ourselves, unfortunately, a few days or a few weeks later in the same place. And this just cannot keep continuing to happen. As you say there, just in Manchester, at the last major Jewish festival, we saw a deadly attack with murderers on the streets of Britain. We've now seen that on a beach in Australia. What is going to come next? When is the world and the West going to wake up and start saying we have to tackle the root causes of anti-Semitism? Otherwise, unfortunately, we're never going to get to the bottom of this, and these attacks are going to keep happening. It's beggars belief that really nothing has happened to this state. To this date. I mean, I'll just give you an example, a UK example. Yesterday, on the streets of our second city in Birmingham, we saw protesters apparently protesting for the cause of Palestine. We saw banners there with Hamas, terrorist organisation, symbols on the streets of our second city. Police did nothing to combat it. We haven't seen a robust response. We haven't seen politicians calling it out. And these things only embolden the terrorists, only embolden the haters, and lead to murders like we've seen. Terrible murders that we've seen today in Australia. So we are calling for action. We need something to change, and we need to change fast, because quite frankly, we can't allow this to keep happening.
Yeah, and it happens here in the United States, Michael. I was at the second anniversary of the October the 7th attacks in New York in October, and there were people there, the videos online, it went viral, people waving Hezbollah and Hamas flags and calling for the destruction of Israel as a state. Not even, it wasn't about Palestine, it was about, or even the war in Gaza and the civilians and the children dying, it was about the eradication of the Israeli state. So just tell me, Michael, before I let you go, what does need to be done? You say this can't happen again. I think we know it will happen again, unfortunately, but what does need to be done practically?
Well, first of all, we need to say stopping the hate marches across the world, stopping the emboldening of terrorism, which is taking place on the streets of Britain and across Europe. We need to start saying Jews need to be treated just like any other group in society. They need to be properly protected. We need to do what any right-thinking member of society would want us to do, which is stamp out terrorist supporters, which is stop the hate marches, which is enforce regulations to say that if someone is displaying hate on the streets of Britain, they will no longer be allowed to do that. They will face the full force of the law. As I say to you, politicians put out lovely statements after these terrible attacks happened. We saw today, it took the Australian Prime Minister quite a while to even acknowledge the fact it was an attack on Jewish communities. And we see that there's always excuses for these things. As you say, anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, and people try and make out like these are two different things. The fact is these things are happening because of a hatred of Jews, because of an age-old hatred of Jews, of anti-Semitism. And there's only one way to stop it, and that's being tough on the people who are displaying this hate. Most right-thinking people in society, of course, completely condone what happens. And I think the majority, or I know the majority of people across the world, across Western nations, would say that if someone is displaying support for terrorist organizations, if someone is showing violence, someone has a history of violence, then it's up to the police to take firm action against them. We're being too soft on terrorism. We're being too soft on people displaying hate. And it's time to start taking really firm action to stop that. I'll just say that, obviously, this attack took place on the first night of Chanukah, which which is the Jewish Festival of Light. It's a time when we say that we are here to spread light across the world, to make the world a better place. That's what we are trying to do. It's those who are trying to do the opposite, to spread hate and to spread darkness, who are perpetrating these attacks. And we have to say, now is the time to stop them, to not embolden them, to really take firm action to prevent this ever happening again. And you know, I hope that we can see that action from the police and politicians.
Michael, thank you so much for joining the show. Appreciate your company. Michael Rowe, Chairman of Young Jewish Assembly. Stay safe is all I can say, Michael. Unfortunately, that's the fact of the reality.